Really trying not to fumble around with this microphone. But anyhow, orcas. I don't know how I became obsessed with orcas. Not exactly. I know the obvious answer. Everybody would assume it was because of Free Willy, and they are mostly right. I watched Free Willy just like everybody else, but something about that movie lodged itself somewhere deep inside of my mind. I wasn't. It wasn't just that I thought orcas were cool. I felt weirdly connected to them, and I never was able to explain why. And after that, I wanted to know everything. I watched every documentary that I could find. I read everything I could get my hands on. And whenever my mom took me to work, I would spend my free time on the computer reading about orcas. I learned about their family structures. I learned they lived in matriarchal pods, that the grandmothers help lead and teach the younger generations. I learned they have rich social lives. And the more I learned, the more fascinated I became. Every summer, my mom would take my brother and I, or my brother and me, to SeaWorld. And at the time, I thought I was going to see Free Willy. I have a picture of myself when I was probably like 5 in the splash zone. I'm completely soaked and I have the biggest smile on my face, into the very small version of me that was the perfect summer. And as I got older, things became a lot more complicated. I watched Blackfish and I started to learn how orcas were captured, how their families had been separated, and how intelligent they really were. And I realized that there was something hard for me to admit. The thing that I loved as a child was also causing suffering, which was SeaWorld, and that really broke my heart. So my dream changed. I didn't want to see orcas in a tank anymore. I wanted to see them where they belonged. So years later, I did something fairly ridiculous. I Googled Orca Camp, literally. Not because I thought it existed, but because I thought it would be amazing if it did, and it actually did. There is a seasonal camp off the tiny island of Vancouver Island near the Johnstone Strait, where there are no permanent buildings, there's no cell service most of the time, and you can only use their shampoo and soap because they want to protect the ecosystem from runoff. And something about that place said that you are entering nature's home and not the other way around. COVID delayed that trip for me, and then life finally happened. My brother had already been gone, my dog had gotten sick and unfortunately passed away. And after he died, I couldn't stand being in the house anymore. Everything reminded me of him, and the silence was unbearable. So I decided I was just going to go. And I ended up having the best week of my life, week and a half, not because I escaped my grief, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt peace, real peace. We kayaked every day. We saw porpoises, otters, eagles, the same salmon the orcas hunt. There was almost no noise and just water, mountains, fog, and an incredible stillness. I felt like being nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. And on our last morning, we went out for a sunrise paddle. The fog was so thick that it almost looked like the sun was rising out of the ocean itself. And that was something that had happened that I will probably never forget. And it was the first time I encountered orcas in the wild, but I didn't see them first. I heard them. You hear the blowholes before you ever see the whales. And somehow the sound echoed across the water and inside of me at the same time. It was loud, it was beautiful, it was terrifying because you know they're there, but you can't see them. Everybody got excited and we started paddling towards the sound, and our guides immediately had to stop us. They told us to group up our kayaks, not because the whales were dangerous, but because getting closer to them was. It's illegal to chase a wild orca. So you let them decide what happens next. I love that now. And as a kid, I thought loving something meant getting as close as possible. Out there, I learned something completely different. Sometimes loving something means giving it enough space to remain exactly what it is: wild, free, untouched. I never got the perfect National Geographic moment. The whales didn't stop beside the kayak. I didn't touch one. And honestly, I'm glad, because the experience wasn't about getting what I wanted, it was about being invited into their world, even for a moment. And because, people ask me sometimes if I would ever go back to Orca Camp, and I say no, that answer surprises them because I wouldn't. I don't want to be, not because it wasn't incredible. It was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life, but I don't want to change that memory. I feel like some memories don't need to be recreated or improved. They just need to be protected. And I think that's what Orca Camp became for me, not an escape or a vacation. It was a reminder that wonder in the world still existed, even after grief, after loss, even after I thought my life would never be beautiful again. And sometimes all it takes is hearing that thing you've been waiting to hear your whole life. And for me, it was the sound of an orca taking a breath. I don't know much more, but who knows? So thanks for listening.